Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
The Daily Compliance News for May 12, 2021, the NRA Booted Edition. We begin with that story from the New York Times. In a stinging rebuke to the NRA, the federal bankruptcy court judge threw out the NRA's application for bankruptcy in a blow to the organization. The organization was trying to avoid its criminal, or rather sanctions and investigation by the state of New York for fraud in running a charitable entity. Although the NRA is likely to appeal the decision, the problem is that the NRA is using a bankruptcy case to address a regulatory enforcement problem, not a financial problem, as the NRA is flush with cash. The testimony before the court really skewered the NRA. It demonstrated that it is not following not simply best practices, but any practices. Next up, from the Wall Street Journal, Risk and Compliance Journal, Dylan Tokar reporting, the next hurdle in the Treasury Department's process of establishing a corporate ownership registry is how to collect the information, how to submit it to the FinCen, who will verify it, and who will have access to it. The registry, which could be years in the making, is supposed to help the U.S. crack down on the illegal use of anonymous shell corporations. However, the first step is to write the regulations which will govern the database, and FinCen is supposed to complete by January. As part of that process, the agency received more than 200 letters following an April request for input. Anti-corruption advocates and groups have pushed for expansive reporting requirements, while small businesses have sought to keep regulations more tailored to the size and their own compliance regimes. Next up, the Canadian jet maker Bombardier has said the U.S. Department of Justice has requested information on deals it did with the Indonesian Guarda in Indonesia, as reported by the Risk and Compliance Journal, this time Mingy Sun and Jackie McNish reporting. The deals have been investigated by the UK for alleged bribery and corruption. The deals happened back in 2011 and 2012. In November, the Serious Fraud Office opened an investigation into these deals, and the Montreal-based company has launched an internal probe as well. It is, company president said, our company has a very high standard of ethics and compliance, and we're going to make sure our backyard is clean. Well, we'll see about that. And our final story is the continuing saga of Greensill Capital. It's now the target of the Financial Conduct Authority, a criminal investigation in the United Kingdom. The FCA said it's collaborating with other UK enforcement agencies as part of the overall investigation into Greensill's collapse. Greensill itself said it's cooperating with investigators, as you might expect. Nevertheless, this presents a very serious ramp-up of potential investigation into Greensill by the UK government, and with the potential criminal charges that could fall out from this, the fallout will continue. Also, the banks who funded Greensill are having to answer to their country's regulators in Switzerland and in Germany. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.